I would say that this pregnancy was a lot easier with things like, okay, I know I have like an OB appointment or I have my physio appointment that I will plan when I see appointments around when these healthcare appointments are versus trying to do that whole mapping out of my schedule of like, okay, I know I'm doing surgeries on that day and this on that. Like it's too far booked out. I'm going to have to move too many people. And it definitely made things a lot easier this time around as a self-employed person.
Hi, guys, and welcome to the House Call Vet Cafe podcast. I'm Dr. Eve Harrison. I'm a full-time integrative concierge house call veterinarian in Los Angeles, and I help other vets to build their unique mobile practices on their terms. This podcast is for and by house call and mobile veterinarians, so it is meant to give our community a platform to connect, to share our stories, to lift each other up, and to support each other. Most of us work solo as lone wolves, right? So for me, it's been really powerful to be able to physically hear the voices of my colleagues from all over the world and to get a chance to feel that we truly are part of a community of very real other human beings who get it. While you may be alone in that little bubble of your own vehicle when you're on the road seeing patients, I welcome you to join our community by tuning into our own podcast when you're on your way to your next house call. Whether you're a super experienced house call vet with 30 years of experience, you're a brand new prospective house call vet just looking to get started, or you're house call curious, there will be something for you in this podcast. Each episode, you will hear interviews from other mobile veterinarians just like yourself who are doing unique and innovative things, vets who are sharing their stories, their struggles and challenges, and you can also look forward to hearing valuable information and perspectives from specialists and experts outside of our micro niche. And finally, if becoming a house call veterinarian is something that you've been thinking about exploring, or you're looking for some extra support getting your own mobile practice to feel more profitable and sustainable for you, check out the information in the show notes about my course and our above and beyond supportive private community for members only, plus our monthly group coaching sessions within the House Call Vet Academy. You can also check out my free public Facebook group, which is also called the House Call Vet Cafe, the same name as this podcast, and which is a warm and cozy community for mobile vets to support each other in professional and personal development, in creative entrepreneurship, and in friendship. So thank you guys for spending time with me today. Let's dive into the episode.
Hey everyone. I am really excited to be back. It's been a little bit of a hiatus, and so I'm particularly happy to have our next guest, Dr. Liz Andree, with us. She's a wonderful person, and it's just a really nice way for me to get back into podcasting. Just like, oh, what a treat to speak to Dr. Liz. So she's here with us. She's wonderful. Dr. Liz is a small animal veterinarian certified in veterinary hospice and palliative care. She operates Sunset Veterinary Care, exclusively offering end-of-life care and in-home euthanasia visits, a first-of-its-kind service in her city. Sunset Veterinary Care opened in October 2020 during peak COVID lockdowns and quickly grew to include a care coordinator and 2 associates. Most recently, Liz has had to pivot to be a stay-at-home mom and maintain the operation of her practice. Liz lives in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which strangely I've actually been to, in Canada, with her husband, 2 young sons, and their 3 senior dogs. Welcome, Liz. I'm so happy to have you here with me today.
Thank you. I'm very excited. And I did not know that fact that you've been to Winnipeg. Or maybe I did. I think you talked about it once. That you were in high school or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That summer, I did a canoe trip that was
Oh,
based
yes.
out
Okay.
of,
I think I remember
yeah,
you
and
saying
it
that
was
now.
like, I spent like 3 months or something, and I canoed some insane amount of mileage, and like I looked like a man by the time I was done. I was so guilty. But anyway, and I always think of that experience, like when I
Yeah.
talk to you and everything. But how's everything going? I wanted to like start out by asking the usual question. What's your favorite snack to eat in the car? Are you driving in the car lately after having your most recent baby? And we'll get into all of that. Oh my God, I have just so many
Yeah.
questions. Getting ahead of myself. Let's
Yeah.
simple. What's your favorite snack to eat in the car?
I was like nervous for this because I feel like so many of your guests say nuts and like healthy snacks. And I'm like, okay, I could go with that because I do tend to reach for cashews pretty often as a snack. But like realistically in the car, like those mini Oreos that are in the large bag, because I just keep them in my glove compartment box. And that's what I grab pretty often.
That's
Especially
awesome.
holistic
Mini
answer. Yeah.
Oreos. It's great. I've never had anyone say mini Oreos.
Yeah.
Delicious. It's
They're
nice.
pretty good. Bite
Sure.
size.
Mhm. Yeah, and cashews are solid too. What I like about cashews is they're not like almonds are delicious. I love almonds, but like they're hard work to chew because they're hard. Cashews are like a little bit more forgiving
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the
It's a
master
little,
muscles, if you
yes.
will.
Definitely.
Are you like a salted cashew or
No,
like
we go for the big Costco size of the unsalted cashews, and like my 4-year-old loves them too. So it's just an easy family snack.
amazing? Well done. Well done. You've passed the first question. So I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about how you became a house call vet doing end of life work and it's developed beyond just sort of like the solo work that you were doing when I last spoke to you during our interview for the House Call Vet Academy. And so I'm really curious to reflect on that journey again and how you got where you are now.
Yeah, I filming prior to starting Sunset, I believed in like manifestation, and I think sometimes when I think back that I'm like, well, I almost feel like I kind of manifested this practice into being. I can think of so many times walking with my husband, with our dogs, and this is prior to us having kids, and I would just yammer on to him about like, well, when I open up this is what it's going to look like, and this is what we're going to do. Because I had been inspired hearing house call end of life vets talk, and I was like, that is a thing you can do. Like, I didn't even know that was something you can do, and it just really inspired me into thinking about it more. Then I kind of came into like maybe a couple of years after that, I just was feeling that really strong imposter syndrome when I would have been maybe like 5 years out, like right in that kind of that, like I've been out long enough. I feel like I should feel more confident, but I don't at all. Like, how did I end up here? And then I actually had reached out to Dr. Shree Gusal, who speaks about imposter syndrome because I was like, what? And she just kind of like, what do you feel like you like? What are you good at? Like, what are your strengths? And I was like, I do like end of life stuff and dentistry, which is unrelated, but that's currently unrelated to anything I do. But she said, hey, have you ever heard of the IHPC? And that's when I kind of opened me up to like, wow, there are a lot of other vets that are like this. And then I started on my journey to certification. But in the middle of that, my first son was born. And then while I was on my maternity leave, which I had a decent full year long maternity leave with him, I started to think more about what my priorities were. And that led me to think like, I think I can actually do this now. Like, this is the time. And so I started planning in early 2020. And as we all know, things for a lot of people really got the shakeup in 2020, but I still pursued with opening up in the fall of 2020 and have not looked back. So
Amazing.
that's the journey to here, the short
Yeah.
version.
I love that you brought up the manifestation piece
Yeah.
because, yeah, I mean, it seems that you had the sort of seeds of it bubbling within you, and then you needed to encounter the right resources and the right time for it to just literally come into existence the way you
Yeah.
did. It's so
Yeah.
cool. I think manifestation is a really interesting concept in general for business owners because there's a lot of talk about, something beyond the standard logic of if I do this, then that will happen.
Yes. Yeah.
Something more, something like ineffable that we can sometimes tap into to get things to happen in a way that we just never expected. So it's just really cool that you see it that way and in retrospect address that. I like
Yeah.
that a lot.
Yeah. It's only been recently where I'm now trying to manifest new things. But I thought, oh, okay, I was able to bring this idea to fruition that I think it's possible to do other things.
Mhm. Yeah, and just sort of thinking back to the time that we connected, I remember I was getting the House Call Vet Academy launched in 2020, and I had reached out to you to ask you for an interview just to like give me some feedback on what it was you might be needing in this like early phase of your
Yeah.
development, how helpful it was to hear your thoughts and processes. And those are to this day a very important part of how the House Call Vet Academy developed. So thank you for
Oh, you're
letting me
welcome.
have that little window into your process at such a important kind of formative time for your own business. It's beautiful to see how your practice has developed since then.
Happy to help however I can.
Yeah. So you are an interesting guest on the show because, well, for a million reasons, but what's kind of at the top of my mind at the moment is you just recently had a baby. And we did start talking about having you on the podcast while you were pregnant. That's a really interesting place for an entrepreneur to be.
Yeah.
So many of us female entrepreneurs, this is going to be a part of the experience of entrepreneurship, having baby, being pregnant, maternity leave, and the balance of time, and just the physiologic changes that are happening in the body while you're trying to uphold a business or grow a
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about your experience as a person who's experienced pregnancy during business ownership and maternity leave and how that's all kind of felt. And you just kind of like would love a little brain dump on all that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it certainly could be a brain dump. I think I thought that I could do more than I was able to while I was pregnant, even though my previous experience should have suggested that no, I would not be able to do as much. But I think I was in a good position where I did have associates that had been with me already for over a year that I could really hand the reins over and trust them. I think it was really hard in the earlier days because when you're not like maybe pregnant enough that you look pregnant or you feel comfortable sharing that you're pregnant, like especially providing euthanasia that families like as nice as they might be, they don't really care about you. Like they do to an extent, but like in that moment, they're usually way more focused on their pet. Like I shouldn't say they don't care about you, but that's not their main focus in those moments. So they don't really they're maybe not gonna be as concerned about how nauseous I'm feeling that day or the fact that a lot of our pets that are near death don't have the best odor to them that it can be certainly a little bit harder in those earlier days. And just the exhaustion that comes with pregnancy. Like it really is kind of true that like yeah, that first trimester is really exhausting. The second you get like a little bit of a win, but then I had other things going on. And the third trimester, I was quite tired. I ended appointments almost a full month sooner than I thought I would. But once I was like very pregnant, I also had my care coordinator letting clients know that, like, just the vet that you will have coming to your home is pregnant. We don't expect there to be any issues, but if for some reason there's any last minute changes, like it's not because she's not trying to be there. So I think I was being too accommodating that I still found myself in physical places that were a little bit tricky, like pets on beds or, really low down, having to move myself. But it was still all doable. I would say exhaustion was the biggest thing that made it challenging because I could go and be on at my appointments and then just come home and have zero energy to do anything else.
Hmm. How did you support yourself through that exhaustion? Was there anything that you did or any accommodations you made in your life or in your appointments to give yourself a little extra love in that state?
I'm definitely a big believer in physiotherapy or physical therapy. Like that was a huge thing for me was going for regular appointments just to make sure that she could help me with my movements so that I would be doing things in a way that wouldn't hurt myself. And then as the weeks went on, I was getting more and more regular massages as well, which is something I had never really done in my life. Like I had never like the idea of it was just kind of like, not really my thing, but then thought of it more as like a therapeutic tool. Then it was a little bit easier for me to feel like I wasn't doing something super lavish. Like this is just something that I need so that my body can move and do the things that I
Yeah.
need to. But
Yeah.
as far as trying to catch up with sleep, I in that kind of exhaustion, like it was just really, I guess, listening to my body and truly just resting,
Mhm. Yeah.
not doing more than I can.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, for folks who are listening out there who are pregnant and running a house call or mobile business, get a massage. It's not too lavish. You deserve it. Look how much you like spoil your patients by being in their home to do this work. You deserve it too. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's really important. Like, it's okay. Like, you can
Yeah.
take care of yourself. You deserve it. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And I think that that's one of those flexible house call things that you
Mm.
can schedule your work life around your personal life. So it definitely, I would say that this pregnancy was a lot easier with things like, okay, I know I have like an OB appointment or I have my physio appointment that I will plan when I see appointments around when these healthcare appointments are versus trying to do that whole mapping out of my schedule of like, okay, I know I'm doing surgery on that day and this on that day. Like it's too far booked out. I'm going to have to move too many people.
Hmm.
And it definitely made things a lot easier this time around as a self-employed person.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And then, so you said you had associates that had been with you for at least a year by the time
Yeah.
all this kind of rolled around. Can you tell me? I think it's a little bit more common in my observation for in-home euthanasia vets to start to like expand a little bit and take on associates a little bit quicker than it is for other types of house call practice.
Definitely.
And I think that there's something that it's inherently a little bit more scalable because the work it's a little bit more encapsulated. Like there's a range of what can happen in an appointment. And of course, there's like depth within each of those euthanasias or end of life care, but it's still within a certain like
For
template.
sure. You can have it a little bit more consistency, even though each vet is going to be different and each
Yeah.
appointment will be different. There still can be some consistency with how we
Mhm.
approach our appointments. I was in a position where I had two vets that were interested to work with me. And I kind of think I always felt that I wouldn't be just myself. And I had remember hearing someone else say at one point that they were looking for an associate and two people appeared that would be good fits. And she just decided to hire both of them because she didn't want to lose the opportunity, even though she wasn't quite ready to take on both. And I was like, you know what? Don't know if I'm in a position to take on two people, but like they both seem like they'd fit in well. And I would love to just be able to see where this goes. And interestingly, one of them is a mentor of mine who even wrote one of my vet school recommendation letters. So that's been really fun to be able to continue that relationship and have her on my team.
That's beautiful how it came full circle. And I also love that you sort of had this approach of let's see how it goes. Like letting go of like, we don't know what's going to happen when we hire someone, let alone two.
No, yeah.
There's their resume, there's what you know about them previously in their work and the rapport
Yeah,
you have, but there's no way to know until you are someone's employer what that will feel like. And so I think that just kind of that light touch that you have, that's really beautiful and I think really admirable and something that I think is good for all of us to hold. Like when you make a pivot, and we'll talk more about big pivots. A big pivot is hiring an associate. That's a huge pivot. It's a big, big difference in how the business feels and operates. And I think to be able to hold a change like that with a little bit of lightness and a little bit of let's see, and we'll keep adjusting as we find out how it feels. And then I also wanted to say the hiring two at one time. I've never been in that situation before exactly, but I did have a situation where I lost out big time on a vet tech that I really wanted to work with, and I didn't hire her in time, and by the time I was ready for her, she had moved on,
yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, that was the biggest loss. Oh my god. It would have been so good if I had just, like, seized the day."
yeah,
Just like an amazing person that would have been. I'm incredibly happy with who I have now, of course, but, like,
yeah.
that severe fear of missing out and actually missing out. In retrospect, I would have, like, snatched her up, you know?
I have a vet tech friend that is an amazing tech, and I was also not in a position where I could bring her on board. And I regret that I have not brought her on board. But the consolation is that my house call colleague in the city who does GP work was looking for an assistant. And I was like, hey, I know someone, and they get along great, and it's been going really well. So,
That's beautiful. That's really awesome that I mean, she didn't become your vet tech, but that you were able
yeah.
to, like, give back to the community, and that was a win for everyone. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really, I think, everyone's favorite vet, Amanda Doran, had said to me once that like we're collaborators, not competition. And that just like completely changed my mindset of how I looked at any of my veterinary colleagues. And then I was like, my colleague needs help. I know someone that could help her out. And just it's really nice to have that
It's
ability to
fantastic.
kind of chat with each other and
Mhm,
share ideas and everything.
mhm. That's wonderful. You know I'm a huge fan of Amanda
I
Doran.
know.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, she's changed my life in certain ways as
Yes,
well.
she's amazing. Yeah.
She's amazing. By the way, I saw her like impromptu in Denver. I was at
Oh, she
AVMA.
had mentioned that to me and just like, so
Yes.
what are the chances?
Yeah. She was in town for a concert at Red Rock, and I was in town for a few extra days after AVMA, and we met up, like, for the first time in person. I was like, "Oh my god, you're taller than I thought."
Amazing.
She's like, "Oh my god, you're taller than I thought."
Yeah.
And I was like, "You have mushroom tattoos on you. I love you even more than I did before." Holy shit.
I
Uh,
I have met Amanda in person, and she's met Erica Dickey in person, and then she
okay.
introduced the 2 of us to each other, and then I always forget that I have not actually met Erica Dickey in person, despite
Yeah.
how often we talk.
Yeah, yeah, it's so interesting. Likewise, I have, like, a number of what I would consider best friends that, like, I text with,
That's
that I
amazing. Yeah,
message with, and I've never met them in person. Like,
yeah.
that's I was called that community. Like,
But I was gonna
shit.
say, you've helped forge these relationships with your community, so
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been beautiful because we really are. I this is kind of like the language that I use on my website and like various other marketing things. But we are like lone wolves in what we do. And now
what
you have a pack. You've got a little pack of wolves
my
now,
little pack. Yeah.
which is adorable. But so many of us really are operating as lone wolves. And I think for that reason, it's like a very natural progression of any like shred of connection we can have to each other. It's like so savored and
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
treasured because who the hell else understands this
No.
very specific thing we're doing, you know?
No,
Yeah.
it's so true. And I think it's still that there is still that component that I do have my little pack, but I'm still the only one that's the entrepreneur part of the pack. That part is where it's nice to connect with other people in this way that understand that little bit more of the puzzle.
Hey guys, I wanted to take a quick break to remind everyone that we have the House Call and Mobile Vet virtual conference coming up. Ticket sales are open again for our third annual conference, February 3rd and 4th, 2024. This is a conference where we actually can be together face to face to celebrate each other and learn together in community. This is a conference that is for us and by us. This is where we get to meet our colleagues from all over the world, connect with our people in real time, learn actionable tips, tricks, and inspiration that is specific to our special micro niche of practice. If you're unsure if this is for you, here's what a few attendees have said in the past. Dr. M said, "It was 1,000 times more intimate than any conference, virtual or in person, that I've ever attended." Dr. A said, "It was a perfect mix of practical information regarding the logistics of seeing house call appointments and the mental side of house call business ownership." Dr. D said, "There were times that I just teared up with emotion to feel a part of a wonderful group and to know that I was not alone in this adventure." You're truly not alone. We're all here with you, no matter what type of mobile or house call practice you have, or even if you're brand new to this community. This conference is for you if you're super experienced or if you're still thinking about whether you want to be a house call or mobile vet to begin with. This conference is for you whether you're doing end of life care in the home, whether you're doing acupuncture only house calls, whether you're an integrative vet, or whether you're a full service laboit practice. This conference is for you if you're anything in between. If you can't make it in person, no worries. Recordings are available afterwards for a limited time. Early bird prices are available before January 1st, 2024, so you do get over $100 off your ticket if you sign up before the new year. Vet techs and House Call Vet Academy participants get an additional discount off the price through December 1st, 2023. All of the information, including discount codes, is in the link in the show notes, so please reach out if you have any questions, and I can't wait to see you there.
Yeah, the entrepreneurship piece is it's a unique flavor. I mean, there is house call practice like that, like working on the business versus working in the business.
Yeah.
When you have an associate, they work in the business, but you're the one working on the business. And it's
Yeah.
just very different perspective,
Yes.
a very
Yeah.
different part of the brain. And like the heart's desire can speak and manifest really what the whole overarching business will be,
Yes.
which to me, I love that. That's just like for me a really beautiful creative outlet for my ideas and hopes and dreams. Do you find a similar thing, or how does it feel to you
Yes.
going
Yeah. I
against
think that
opinions?
it is like the working in and working on that lately I've been in this weird position where I've been working in, but not as a vet, doing
Oh,
more of the day to day keeping things going, like that, all those behind the scenes business things that just keep things flowing because I haven't been able to get out to appointments as much as I would like to. And I'm really hoping to get to a point where I have time to be working on the business because I do have ideas and thoughts and ways that I want things to grow, but it's hard to do that without time to put consideration into it. I don't want to just make quick decisions. I want to be able to have a plan.
yeah, yeah. You're a very thoughtful person with your entrepreneurship, I've noticed, and I appreciate that.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I ask a little bit, like, how's it going having employees? What challenges might you be able to speak to if there've been challenges, and what would you say has worked, if you wouldn't mind sharing about that?
Yeah, I would say that it's on the whole, like, I love that I have other people that are in the team because it allows me to kind of share what I think is such an amazing piece of veterinary medicine with other people that maybe don't want to do all of the business parts that I'm doing. And so I like that I'm able to provide kind of I don't know, an interesting workspace, we'll say, and
Yeah,
that it can make a difference, even if it's just a really tiny sliver of the veterinary world. I like them as human beings. Like that is kind of
great.
cool to get to meet other, or I mean, I guess I know them pretty well at this point, but I guess like challenges, like it's hard to sometimes remember that the boss at the end of the day. That as much as I like it is my vision and my business for how things are going, that I'm pretty easygoing and I take other people's opinions into consideration pretty strongly. But sometimes it's hard to be like, oh, I guess I kind of have to say what I need to say about these situations. So that part gets a little bit tricky. It doesn't come up often, but when those things do come up, I'd say that's the most challenging part. Is just handling any sort of conflicts that may come up while still feeling like I'm being true to my like easygoing
Yeah.
approach to things. It does help that one of my closest friends is an HR consultant. So she
Yeah.
gets a few calls to just make sure that I'm doing things in ways that are, keeping everybody following laws and being respectful and all that. But yeah, I don't know. I think probably what it comes down to is just realizing that not everybody is me, that how people think and
Yeah.
approach things is going to be different than me. And usually when there's conflict, it's because we've just approached the same thing in different ways,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
just trying to figure out which way makes, if it can only be done my way, or if there's a way for me to accept it being done the way someone else would approach it.
Oh, that's some really juicy stuff. I think that's really the heart of managing other people in your own business. And to me, like, I made a decision to manage as little as possible because it's hard. It's really, really
Yes.
hard. And like you said, you like these people as human beings. Like, one of them was your mentor. Like, that's a
Yes.
special relationship. And like,
Yeah.
for us in the house call world, what we do, it's like, I mean, I earlier said what you do is a little bit more scalable, but I think there's still an extent to which you can scale that and still maintain that personal touch and like really care about
Yes.
your employees and like stay connected to them and have them really be heard, like I hear you doing. And I mean, what's tricky about that is like, this is small business, this is micro business. Like, we all know each other. We're working
Yes.
together in the
Yeah.
home at times, like with very sensitive emotional material and heart based material. People care deeply.
Yes.
Other veterinarians have strong wills. Like, we've been trained to have strong wills and strong ethics and strong, perspectives on what it means to care for animals in the way that feels right to us. And it's interesting because as house call vets who have associates, I find what's really the tricky thing, and that you described in really beautiful ways, that it's inherently a dual relationship.
Yeah.
Gonna become your friends. They're
Yes.
gonna become people you care deeply about. This
Yeah.
is close work,
Yes.
and they're also your employee.
Yeah. That's
Like, you have to have a standard as well. So,
yes.
if ultimately it's not a completely a democracy, it's your business, you have the vision, like you said, and then holding other people's truth and validating it and making them feel an important part of the team while also understanding that there has to be an overarching direction. And so
Yeah.
I think that anyone who's a house call vet, this is my theory, like an independent house call vet who hasn't scaled like nationally or something and who's maintaining this sort of personal touch, I think that inherently that the work is going to be a little bit trickier and require a little bit more communication and thoughtfulness because of the intimate nature of what it is.
Yeah.
Does that seem sort of like resonant of your
Absolutely. Yeah.
contribution?
Absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah, and I really admire folks who have the sort of mindful, conscientious look at themselves and that inner looking at how do I hold their needs as well as the overarching needs of the business. I think that's really amazing. Yeah.
I keep trying to say that like my people come first. We can figure out the other things, but like right now we do Monday to Friday daytime because that's when all of us want to work. So I'm not going to say you have to work evenings or weekends because I don't want to work. And why am I going to make them do it if they don't want to either? So if someone said they wanted to work evenings, then that would be different. But where
Exactly.
we are right now, if my phone hours are set to when my care coordinator was available, okay, that's when our phone will be answered. Like you're only available till 3:30. Okay, this phone turn off at 3:30.
Yeah, that's great. That's amazing. And I am curious also, what have things been like in maternity leave? Are you
Yeah.
able to have proper maternity leave or
So as you mentioned in the intro that I am in Canada, so things are obviously going to be different here compared to others. But what would be similar is that as someone who's self-employed, I have not been paying into the Canadian insurance that would then pay me back to have paid maternity leave, which is not a lot of money that they give you anyway, but it is still something that allows parents to take time off. And we do have a protected leave for up to 18 months that employees can take off. And it can be split. It doesn't have to be like there is a specific part that's for like the birthing parent, but then any parent could take the remaining, like I think it's like 15 months. So technically, my husband is on parental leave right now, but technically, he's maybe doing more work than he should be. Maybe this will air when he's supposed to be back at work anyway, but so he's supposed to be on his parental leave. But unfortunately, some things have come up that he has had to return to work a bit sooner than planned. And we lost childcare for our older son because most parents have parental leave until at least a year of age for their babies. Like childcare for under a year old, like doesn't really exist unless you hire like a private nanny. So even just finding childcare is like not really possible at this stage. So I have kind of pivoted to be a stay-at-home mom in the last couple months. At the beginning, it was like it kind of made sense. Like, yeah, he's little, I'm home. My other son was at daycare. It was the maternity leave I was expecting to take. I wasn't expecting to have such an emotional reaction though about considering to going back into appointments. And I mean, I keep saying like I was on a leave, but it's just a leave from appointments. Like there's not really ever a leave when you own a business. Like there's always things to do. And so I've been really struggling for the last 6 months at this point, trying to figure out what that looks like for me, like what time of day, how many days, how many appointments in a day. Like it's been a bit of a challenge. And then the new challenge has been the fact that I also have my 4-year-old. So
yeah.
it's not just the baby trying to figure out what to do with him. Kind of just embrace that I'm just a stay-at-home parent right now and
Mhm.
lining them up for afternoon swimming lessons and things that are during the week that maybe other families can't do because they are at work. So that's been kind of nice. But then I get this really like frustrated other side of things where I'm like, but I have this work that I want to do that is important to me and makes me feel like myself. But I can't do it because it's not really possible to do it all. Like you can kind of do it all, but not the level that you may want to do it. And I've chosen to focus more on my kids than focus on working. But
Mhm.
I'm trying to work enough that everybody else that is working for me feels like they have as much as me as they need. But yeah, it's been good though because it has allowed it to be way easier for my associates to take time off. So if my one associate had an opportunity to go to Malta, and I was like, go to Malta, like I will just work your shifts for you. Like this isn't even a question. Like go, like So things like that are kind of nice that, then I'm only finding care for like 6 days instead of every single day in a month. So I think it's caused me to think maybe I need to just change my model up a little bit.
Mhm.
And I have been looking to add some extra associates in so
Okay.
that I can maybe continue on this, hopefully with more childcare, but continue on a model where maybe my working time is more focusing on working on the business and then allowing myself to have that freedom to work in the business to cover for the other people so they can make sure that they're filling their cups and having time off that they might need.
Hmm. That's awesome. It's really cool how you're kind of fluid with it and just letting it kind of evolve. And what's really cool is that as an entrepreneur, having a business that you built, it can do that. It can flow with what needs to happen and it can change. And, like you're able to do the stay at home mom thing because you have this business.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be able to do it if I was an employee somewhere. Like it would if I would have to have quit my job.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. And then I've been leaning quite a bit into this concept of seasons for business owners and entrepreneurship, that there are seasons where, and this is not exactly the situation you're in, but just for example, there are seasons where business is slow. Then there are
Yeah.
seasons where business is so busy that you can't even keep up. And that this is a cyclical thing that can happen. I'm not able to work as much in the business as I want, but I'm working on the business. And then in another season, when your children are a little bit older, you may find yourself working again in the business and just really throwing yourself into the things that
Yeah.
you do and that, like
Yep.
you said, make you feel like you. And so I think when we talk about children and pregnancy and birth and like the cycle of life, it so parallels the cycles that happen in business as well. And it's just sort of something that I've been really playing with and thinking about as a way to sort of alleviate some of the anxiety that comes with the ups and the downs and the peaks and the troughs and like the seasonality can be scary for people, especially in the
It
beginning. It's
is.
like, okay, after winter, there will be another season and then it's going to cycle again,
Yep.
so it's going to be okay. That kind of
No,
thing.
I like that framing of it being that it's season because I don't think I've thought of it that way. But there's a lot of things that are very cyclical or that there are these ups and downs, like you said. And I keep kind of saying that to myself on the days where I feel so frustrated that I'm like, I don't have time to do anything. It's like, you know what? I was at a point before my second was born and before I was heavily pregnant and too tired to do anything, but where I felt like I had a flow, right? That I had
Mhm.
enough time where I felt like I'm being a present parent. I have
Mhm.
time to do appointments. I have time to work on the business. And I was like, I think I'm just in a hard season of life and my focus needs to be more on keeping these kids going. And when the season changes where I can have a bit more time to focus on business things, and that's when my time will go.
Beautiful. I love that. It's just awesome that you have the availability to let the seasons be what they are and to kind of move through it the way you have. And then it's also very interesting to me. Most people that I know in entrepreneurship struggle to work on the business. Most people are in the business and really have a hard time taking the bird's eye approach. But in your situation, you're working very much on the business and like longingly wishing to be in the business. It's just very interesting. It's really interesting.
I was pleasantly surprised of how much I like the business aspects of things, but I think it's just that constant learning, right? Start learning new things.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I very much feel that successful entrepreneurship depends on a growth mindset and an acceptance of continuous learning. That if we think we've arrived, think again. There's always learn, like the market changes, the work itself changes as we learn more about veterinary medicine.
Yeah.
Our lives change. We enter different seasons and different phases of our own lives. So it's an excellent point that continuous learning is very much a part of what I believe creates successful entrepreneurship. So thank you so much for sharing these thoughts and these experiences and insights here.
You're welcome.
Wondering, is there anything else that you'd like for folks to know about you?
Specifically, just about being a household vet home euthanasia vet or a business owner that there's a lot of work involved, but the flexibility to make it exactly what you want it to be and to make it work around your life instead of making your life go around your work has been worth every bit of the hard parts.
I feel absolutely the same. So thank you for voicing that. And that's, I think, very valuable for people to hear in general, but particularly from a mom who recently had a little one. And, just so many of us find ourselves in that position or will. And so much appreciated your perspective and your learnings. And just in summary, before we close up, I wanted to know, do you have a favorite beverage, whether it's tea or coffee or booze?
I'm not really an alcohol drinker, so that, I won't go to that cafe, I guess. But interestingly, I'm sure most people would think coming from like a place of snow, I'm not really into warm drinks. So I'm more of like, I think more of like an iced coffee. Make it with some chocolate milk just because apparently when I was pregnant, I just became addicted to sugar. So that's and it stayed. So
That
that
sounds
would be my choice.
delightful. Oh, that sounds delicious. I always get so inspired after these recordings. I'm like, have to immediately go out and have like a nice like
Yeah.
coffee with chocolate. And oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much, Liz. It's been wonderful to connect with you again. And thank you for a very easy conversation as I myself get back into my podcasting groove. So I really appreciate you and what you do and just the work you do and the way you do it. So just thanks again.
Oh, and thank you, Eve. This has been so nice. It's almost been therapeutic chatting with you.
Yeah, I agree. Same.
Yeah.
All right, my dear. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the House Call Vet Cafe. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never have to miss an episode. This podcast is made specifically for you, so don't be shy if you'd like to reach out and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as The House Call Vet Academy, where I also share more valuable content. If you're interested in learning more about consulting for house call vets or the House Call Vet Academy online course and community, please click on the link in the show notes. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I can't wait for you to join us for our next episode of the House Call Vet Cafe.